All right, and let me share the screen. Boom, 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 boom. Share the window. Here we go. And all right, welcome everyone to the April 15th tax day in the United States. April 15th, 2025. And a link to the meeting minutes is not yet in the chat. Did someone put it in the chat? See if there's a chat message. Yes, thank you, Amelia. Link to the meeting minutes is in the chat. Please click on the link and add your name as a microprofiler, optionally with your organization. It is everyone's shared responsibility to take notes, and this is being recorded and will be posted to YouTube at some point. Okay, so today's agenda. I don't know if anyone else. I don't know if we have any tutorial discussions, but I'm going to pause that. I'm going to talk about hosting MicroProfile in Jakarta. Sorry, I'm looking for it. MicroProfile 7.1 release. In fact, I kind of want to start with that one. And I think that's mostly it for the higher priority things. So, don't know if we have, sorry. As is usual, there we go. Zoom redecorates my desktop. Got to find where all the windows are. Okay. So on MicroProfile 7.1, if we look at the release time frame, we are here, which means we should be starting component spec ballots. We should also have a candidate release for the umbrella spec, and it looks like it was Emily and I did work on it. It was built, but I don't think it was pushed. So the artifacts are in the staging repo right now. We'll take a look at that in a second. In terms of due yesterday, was Quarkus as a compatible implementation, and getting a Quarkus CCR, but I don't know if you could do that without having the RC1 bits in Maven. Roberto, do you have any status on MicroProfile 7.1 in Quarkus?
Yeah, I mean we need the API jars to be available in Central to be able to reference them. Well, to include them as in Quarkus, right?
Okay. So let me do this. This is MicroProfile 7.1 RC1. I went and I looked this up before the call. So like I said, it looks like it hasn't been pushed. Let me double check. Sorry, I'm gonna go into another browser here real quick. Oh gosh, move things around on my monitors. File. Spelling it right would be helpful. Okay, that's the wrong one. Latest version. All right. After the call, I think what I'll do, Roberto, is I'll double check that the bits haven't been pushed, and if they haven't, I will push them. The RC bits. So we should be okay there. I think, let's see, have any other ballots been started?
Yeah, but you're talking about the platform, right?
Yeah.
The platform. There are no jars from the platform, right?
Actually, that's a good point. The API jars would No, you talking about the component specs?
Yeah, so what we actually need, so as an example, so telemetry is having a new version, right? If I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So we need the TCK in central, right, to be able to run that.
See, I see a telemetry here in staging, but I don't want to push that without um, talking to the telemetry team. And we have one for OpenAPI that's marked March 18th.
Yeah,
So
so
we have,
so those
mhm.
are the yeah, so that's the ones that we need, right? But ballots haven't really started for those, right?
Well, if there are Cs, um, we don't have to have a ballot.
Okay.
Um, it's um, what we want. What we want to do is vote on the RC will be pushed, and we can take a look at that. And assuming everything is okay, then the ballot we could start a ballot on the final. Actually, do we
Okay. I
have
mean,
any
our seats are
RC?
fine for us to try them out.
Yeah. Hey, apologize, Tabang. Do we need do candidate releases require a ballot? I can't remember if we've done it in the past.
They do not. This
They
is not
don't.
debating,
Right.
but I do
That's what I
know
thought.
the answer, so they do not. But sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I thought, actually.
you're
Sorry, it's been a
correct.
while.
RCs do not need a ballot.
Right. Okay. So, mental hiccup there. So, if there are RC bills of telemetry and OpenAPI, then Roberto, you could do a build, correct? A beta build.
Yes.
Okay, so that and Emily's not here today. She's on PTO this week. So that's going to beg the
Yes,
question then.
some information from the Open Telemetry or MP Telemetry call yesterday. The RC is not ready yet, but is expected to come soon. There is a new Open Telemetry version that is included recently, so there's a last minute change to
Okay.
get aligned with the latest version. And yeah, I think when Emily is back, the RC will be released.
Okay. So my guess is we should push the timeline out 1 week. Which is not really a big deal. So it'd be May 6th, so we could push it. Do I want to be conservative and say 2 weeks? A week to 2 weeks. I think I might do 2 weeks, just to pad ourselves a little bit, not having to do it again. So let's see if we can finish up telemetry. Roberto can do a build. Get a Quarkus CCR, and I think that's everything. Okay. All right. So I'll push it 2 weeks. We'll revisit at the technical call next week. I'll be out next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll be online. It's a work meeting. I got to travel to, and I'll be traveling during the meeting. So I'm not going to make the technical call next week. But I will be online and doing MicroProfile kind of things. Okay, probably more so in the evenings. All right, go back to Okay.
When you say bits, you should probably specify get the RCs in Maven Central just so that way people understand.
Oh, David. Okay, cool. Yeah. I didn't see you join. Okay. Okay. All right. That's it for the release. Second thing I want to talk about is the hosting MicroProfile in Jakarta topic. So what I try to do is where I provide a status. I know we want to start a ballot here very shortly. To me, there's not a forcing function. I just want to make sure we get it right. And in chatting with Emily, I think what we want to do is have a document that basically says what it is the proposal is in more detail. Then the ballot would reference that document, saying, we agree with the following, document that this is what we want to happen. I didn't want to try and rush this while Emily is away on PTO. Where I think I looked at the 2 threads that we have in the Google group, last meeting's meeting minutes. So these are the things I took a status of, and one is I think we agree that the MicroProfile brand is valuable. Specifications will move into Jakarta as Jakarta MicroProfile, and all the specs would do so, but config is kind of a special case where it's going to require a little bit more discussion. And maintain a quicker release cadence. Now I know during the one of the prior calls, and Dimitri even brought this up, right, where Jakarta wants to decouple profile releases from the full platform release, and it's already happening, right? But we want to continue to do that with MicroProfile with maybe twice a year. I think the days of 3 times a year are kind of gone now that we're a working group. But if we can do 2 releases a year and do it in the context of Jakarta, that would be awesome. It may not happen the first year because we'll be busy probably executing the move and integrating MicroProfile into Jakarta if this ballot passes. But this remains true. Where we are in disagreement is the namespace, right? I'm trying to think, like, are there any red lines where we would absolutely not want to execute the move? I don't think this is one. I think this would take a separate ballot, maybe even after the move, assuming the move ballot passes. But this is just an area where there's not agreement on, okay? And some things that require more discussion. Some of these I would like to happen to some degree before a ballot to execute the move. One is what to do with config. Is it going to become its own spec outside of a profile? Is it split up into a CDI, CDI, non-CDI, programmatic API versions and moved into existing specs or whatever? That discussion has to happen. I don't think there's disagreement necessarily around this, but it would be, I think, a good idea to understand what's going to happen there. The JUG fee structure. I know that we can't force requirements on the Jakarta EE working group, but this is an area of concern. I know that Michael Redlick brought up, and I think it's a general concern about what could be a higher barrier to entry. Well, what is a financial higher barrier to entry, from my understanding, for JUG to be a voting member in Jakarta? And I think I saw a couple of hands go up. Let me do just 2 more here. The specification naming requires more discussion. I don't think I don't think it's necessarily a red line, but I would like to keep the MicroProfile branding in the spec name. And then there's definitely a preference for more open meetings within Jakarta, right? That was a big topic of discussion, I think, at the last call. Unfortunately, again, I couldn't make it, but at this point, we can't, force Jakarta to do this, but anything could be a condition on moving. I don't know if this meets that bar or not, but it's definitely a preference. Okay, I didn't see who went up first. So I'm going to go in order of my screen. Jan?
Yeah, hi. Recently we had JavaLand conference in Germany, and I used that opportunity to discuss these topics a lot with especially the community, and also Eva, Emily, and Ed Burns. To start with the JUG fees, to join as a JUG, not as a guest member, as a contributing member, that's easy, that's for free. What is not included is the kind of responsibility you take as a MicroProfile member that are similar to a strategic member, so having a seat with voting rights in every committee. That's a difference. So for the iJUG, for example, the membership in Jakarta is cheap, while we have to pay for the membership in MicroProfile, I think $1,500 per year, additionally to the fees for the Eclipse membership. But of course, it's not the same thing to get voting rights like a strategic member with a seat in every committee. Then you need to be in different membership categories. I don't remember the fees there because I just chose the cheapest variant.
$25,000.
That's a challenge and impossible for iJUG, for example. Then regarding what we discussed there, especially to these points, there was an unconference where that was a topic, and then on the speaker dinner especially, and on the Jakarta panel. I don't know if that will be made public. It was streamed online for free, but I'm not sure if the content will be public when the videos are cutted. There also we discussed that. Regarding the naming, I think we need to make decisions in MicroProfile how we would like to have it in Jakarta, but we should follow the naming rules there. So adding an empty space in Jakarta, empty space micro, empty space profile just makes sense. Also to the community to have the same naming scheme we have for the web or the core profile.
Sorry, Jan, I apologize for interrupting. This isn't necessarily feedback from the conference. This is your thoughts?
Yeah, I collected that feedback because I'm representing the German-speaking JUGs, so I just not want to make decisions on my own. I use the opportunity to get feedback from the visitors and the JUG members there. And also Eva, with Eva, I discussed some potential ways, and there is an official way. So if we decide we move that to Jakarta, then we need to get a request for that to the Jakarta Steering Committee. And then I think some of the points we are actually discussing will be negotiated there. So I'm not sure if voting on specific tasks makes sense now. What is important to start that is to vote that we want to do it. And then how things could be done is a second question, I would say. Also, what was interesting, the feedback from the community was regarding a namespace change. That makes sense to them, even if that hurts a little bit, but having two separate namespaces for Jakarta specifications. For example, in different profiles, when Jakarta config, which would be merged into the core profile, that does not make sense to them. So I expect the community would accept that namespace change and then have a unified naming within Jakarta, including MicroProfile. Yeah, also what and when changes should be done before the merge, that's another story. What could be interesting is how we want to support older versions of MicroProfile. The working group is not existing anymore. Making patch releases for old versions could be challenging, so we need to decide what is the minimum Jakarta version to be supported and the minimum MicroProfile version that will be supported. And that should reflect then the state of the repository that is transferred. Yeah, that were the main points coming into my mind there.
Okay, and you're right that that's a how, right? Those are things aren't necessarily part of the ballot itself, but it is something that will have to be resolved.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
I understand that. Okay, I'm gonna is that all?
For now, maybe if something comes in my mind, I will.
Okay. Thanks, Jan. Reza.
Okay, I'm having some inconsistent audio issues on my end. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very briefly, I just want to plus one, two things from Jan and iJog's perspective, where Microsoft is very much aligned with the naming of the profile itself. We do agree that yes, MicroProfile brand is valuable. I think there's a way to carry it forward without making things, for lack of better terms, confusing for the customers going forward. We do believe that the new profile to host essentially what is in MicroProfile today should be something along the lines of MicroSpace profile. I think that is a reasonable compromise, and I think even in the spec itself, the spec, ultimately the definition of MicroProfile can even give some credit to the historical perspective of where that particular profile came from, number one. Number two, definitely agree with the consistent namespacing. Again, I do, from a Microsoft perspective, we do believe there is a space for a reasonable compromise there. I think it could be something along the lines of, for certain specifications or parts thereof, something along the lines of Jakarta.microprofile. Something, I think is a compromise with regards to figuring out, the bridge between what is right now and potentially what we would need to do in order for the whole thing to succeed and be on firm ground. So aside from that, those are honestly, that's pretty long-winded for just a small plus one, but main thing I wanted to discuss. So I think the conversation around JUG fee structure for Jakarta working group, as well as any other things that we want to see, for example, publicly opening up the steering committee meetings and marketing committee meetings, I don't think there's a reason to hold that up. I think that conversation can move forward. So frankly, I'm struggling a little bit about how to go about doing that, right? So purely from a Microsoft perspective, honestly, we're okay with the way things are in Jakarta working group today. At the same token, though, we are also supportive of anything that within reason can improve vendor neutrality, right? So it's a very fine line sort of that we're trying to balance. So what we would like to see is concrete and quote unquote reasonable suggestions towards those things in the Jakarta working group that we can move forward as, you know, as a party of the Jakarta working group, as well as being in the steering committee, so on and so forth. We're more than willing to do that. So what we would like to see is sooner rather than later, like concrete and again, quote unquote, reasonable suggestions of what we would like to see precisely. I'll say I don't think demanding that Jugs should be able to become a strategic member of Jakarta working group for $1,500 is a reasonable position. I don't think we're signing up to support that position. But hypothetically, positions that we could support is, for example, upping the participant member voting positions from just 1 member to 2 members. I think that could be reasonable. Opening up the steering committee meetings to basically observers, at least tentatively, I think that's reasonable. Right. So there's a whole host of such things that is actually we believe is reasonable. So I think I'll stop there. I believe I made my point.
Yeah, I had something similar in mind. So having a second committer seat would not align that to JAX only, so all the community members have a chance to get a seat and get represented. That's a good idea.
When I was looking for the raise hand, but I do not find it anywhere in my menu at all.
Pretty
I
good.
literally
Go ahead,
looked on
David.
everywhere and I Googled. Anyway, just a quick note on the microspace profile. So we've gone through the trademark process with MicroProfile as one word. So microspace profile is a suggestion with a $sign on it, because we would need to go through that process again.
Yeah,
but I think
sorry, David, just to let you know, I did see I was going to get to that after the people that had their hands up. I was going to add that in, but thank you for bringing that up. That's actually a good point. Jan, go ahead.
I am. I'm not sure if the Jakarta web profile or the Jakarta core profile are separately trademarked. Jakarta is trademarked, and so the brand is protected. I don't know if that rebranding or re-trademarking with an empty space is necessary in that case. But yeah, you're right, that need to be checked.
Yeah, I can speak to that. This is Tabang. Core profile and web profile are not trademarked. So John and others, I just want to clarify something. Is the idea when we've been referencing the ballot, we're talking about the resolution that would need to be voted on?
That's correct. Well, yeah, there would be a resolution. I think the resolution, the approach I'm thinking is because there's going to be some details involved. So there'll be, you know, whether it's a presentation style or a Google Doc or whatever, the ballot can say, you know, thumbs up or thumbs down on the move as outlined in the doc. If it's simple enough, we could just do it in the resolution verbiage itself. But
yeah, so I think if it's simple enough is something that we have experienced this doing it for several years, that having a resolution that is atomic, so simple and atomic, so that doesn't require people to refer to some other artifact or document is what you want to do, because that maintains the integrity of the vote, right? So in case some people say, okay, I was voting for this thing, but I hadn't read page 5, bullet 13 of the supporting material. That would be some guidance. And then I think it's already been noted by other folks, but anything that is decided on the MicroProfile side is not binding on Jakarta. So I think going too far down the well or rabbit hole in prescribing a solution or an implementation rather is could be problematic, right? Because if you are signing up, if you're voting, if you're plus oneing something that prescribes a particular implementation, what happens when that goes to Jakarta and they don't agree with all of the things that are prescribed? Is that making sense?
Well,
I think it's a very
Well-
fair thing to point out. Yes.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, someone could always vote. Like I've seen it even in back in the JCP days. There's contingencies in the vote. I vote plus one contingent upon XYZ, right? I don't know if that's a thing in Eclipse, but I know that in past organizations, it's been done that way.
Yeah, it's certainly not a recommended thing.
Right.
And I think probably the as I've been listening to the conversation here, this is exactly the right level of conversation for sure. It's like, how do you construct and formulate a resolution that everyone can sign up to, or clearly plus or minus one, without all of the conditions, right? I think that's
Yeah.
the art here.
And I don't think we're going to get agreement on what those conditions are, so it would be doubly difficult.
Exactly.
I do want to circle back just quickly on the trademark aspect. The difference between the core profile and the web profile is they don't have trademarked logos. Like above John's head is MicroProfile trademarked logo, right? So any changes to that do require us to circle through the whole trademark process again, or proceed forward without a trademark.
Yeah, or we use the Jakarta trademark for Jakarta MicroProfile.
Right. As I said, it would either be re-trademarking that logo or not having a trademark on the logo.
Yeah, for the logo, that's right. But we can omit the logo in the logo. We can omit the empty space.
Yeah, that's.
It's a logo that it could be a
And
symbol
John, you
or
want
graphic.
you want to comment that that's simply to add the space in there, right?
Oh,
No,
yeah, yeah.
no. You want to keep, or you want to have a separate logo for the Jakarta MicroProfile.
No, I wasn't suggesting that. I was circling back on the comment that to add the space in there does undo some trademark work that has already been done. I'm just simply making a statement of fact.
Oh, okay.
The cost of the space is to undo trademark work that has already been paid for.
And my comment was when we still want to use the MicroProfile logo, we don't need to change anything. And the variant of MicroProfile with the space is protected with the Jakarta in front of it, which is trademarked.
That is correct. That would be an option.
What would we be using the logo for post the transition?
There might be implementations, for example, like Helidon or Quarkus, that don't try to be a web profile implementation or a full platform implementation. They want to show that they are supporting the core and the MicroProfile only. And that might be a way where that logo could be used. I'm not sure if that is worth to be kept for the future. An interesting thing I detected last Tuesday, Ed Burns gave a JUG talk at the JUG Darmstadt, and he asked for who is knowing Jakarta, and from about 25 people, maybe a little bit more, 2 persons raised their hands. And then he asked who knows MicroProfile. Then the majority of the people raised their hands. So that team or the visitors of that JUG event at that company, yeah, they are using Spring Boot without knowing that they are using Jakarta inside the box. But they know MicroProfile because they are using, for example, Quarkus. That was a surprise.
Well, it's not to me. And the reason is, and I think David pushed for this when we founded MicroProfile. It's the fact that you could use the MicroProfile logo even if you implemented just one spec, right? You don't have to be the entire platform. You know, if you used one spec in your product, so if Spring were to use MicroProfile Health, let's say, they could actually use the MicroProfile logo. That was kind of, we want, because of exactly what you just mentioned, Jan, because people don't know that Jakarta is being used significantly under the hood in Spring, right? So that is this is a good point, that there is value to MicroProfile even in Jakarta if it could be used in that context. The problem is going to be that to use the logo in today in the MicroProfile working group, there's zero cost. To use the logo in the context of Jakarta, you have to be a member, right? And so that changes the financial dynamics there as well. So, you know,
that's just to clarify that you're referring to, so the Jakarta logo, that's a certified logo.
Yeah.
There is a certified logo. There is not a certified logo for MicroProfile.
Right. In fact, we avoided that.
Right. There is no MicroProfile certified logo that is associated with membership fees.
Right. So, you know, what if, you know, a framework or a product use some Jakarta? Could they use the Jakarta logo without using a Jakarta certified, saying we use Jakarta, you know, technology? They don't have to say
the answer is no. The answer is no. So,
right.
But again, that's something that's decided on the Jakarta side.
No, I agree. But my point is that this is something that will be lost in a transition, right? The ability to get the logo out far and wide without being a member from a product standpoint.
Yeah. Something we haven't talked is that MicroProfile uses a different license than Jakarta EE. We are an implementation license. That means that someone can become an implementer without being a member of the Eclipse Foundation and the working group. Clearly, they will not be listed in the MicroProfile working group page or the website, but Jakarta doesn't do that. And you know, when we talk about trades, trading, that kind of situation, it just falls into what we're talking about trademark, but it goes beyond that. It goes also into the IP, where we do different things. Something that amazes me is that we have yet to even mention that and realized in the, I like, John, that you are working on the slides. And I think something that creates some differences, that needs to be, it will be my recommendation that that difference gets added because it's huge, right?
So sorry, I wanted to complete my notes before I lost.
I spoke too fast, right? Yes, you're writing it okay. You're saying there is zero cost to use the logo. You know, I'm talking formally. If you wanted to be listed, you should become a member of the Eclipse Foundation and the working group and be added into the website, MicroProfile website. But if you do not want to do it, and it's an implementer that doesn't have the money, it does not care about contributing to the Eclipse Foundation and the working group in a manner that is formal, they will be compatible on their own. They can do their own publicity without using the logo and things like this. That is not allowed at the Eclipse Foundation and the level of Jakarta EE working group. You see what I mean? We use a different trademark, not trademark, IP, where we voted to be implementers. Implementation first, right? So if we go into the patent, I recommend that that difference be added into the slides that IBM and Red Hat created. Because when we talk about the differences, it has not been added. I'm just pointing out, it will be clear.
That's a good point. I forgot all about
someone, exactly. So someone that doesn't know what they are voting with, it's just, we should be scavengers and figure out, we can go into the ballots and figure
We all
out,
got the
what are the
point
differences.
now. I
It's
think.
good, it's good, it's good. Just, there's a lot of
Okay.
differences.
What was the other one? There's the implementation first, and what was the other one? The alternate option.
There's
Anyone remember?
compatible, and then there's implementation. So,
Okay.
and that refers to not logos, but patenting, right? So in a compatible form, you don't get the patent protection until you've actually certified your product. And at the implementation, by simply implementing the product, you get patent protection.
Yeah, it started earlier.
Did I get that right in my notes, or did I get backwards? God, it's been so long. Okay,
And it's not IP license, John, it's patent license.
thank you.
That's it, John.
Woo! All right, we have 13 minutes left. Oh, got a couple more hands. I think I saw Jan's up first, and then we'll get to Reza. So Jan.
Yeah, maybe to solve that patent issue, we can do it per spec or umbrella spec, so we can keep the selection. That is important for me too. One interesting point Eva was interested in, to keep this call, maybe with a new name, but he said MicroProfile is doing a great job in this community call, and he wants to have it alive in Jakarta.
Yeah, I like the idea because of the cadence. To some degree, I think it would. Well, I would say to some degree, I think it would be helpful. Because like I'm on the platform calls, and those agendas are pretty packed. And I think it would be good to have one. I think continuance good, and over time, once we have experience, we'll decide if it's still a good thing or if it should be merged into other meetings. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, that might be true for the technical call, but for the community call, I think that's valid for a long time independent meeting. But I agree, yeah. At the beginning, having both calls on the umbrella spec level would be a good idea, but Eva especially requested that community call should stay.
Okay, Reza?
Pavan, you may not know this offhand. Is it my understanding of Jakarta E is that you don't actually need to be a working group member in order to be to actually be Jakarta E compatible certified. I think you can do that without actually being.
That is correct. So first, there's two different approaches. So you're correct and also not correct. Just depends on what you want to do. So if your goal is to simply claim that you're compatible, like open and publicly, you can do that without having to be approved. If you'd like to use the logo, you do need to be a member.
That's correct.
And be listed on the website.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's a good point.
John, I put the compatibility requirements into the chat, the Hangout chat, if you want to.
Okay, I am looking. Oh, here it is. Ah, thank you. So can I claim compatibility if I pass the TCK but not use the logo?
Yes. But you're not going to be acknowledged by the working group.
Right. Okay.
But you can say things like, my product is Jakarta compatible. I don't think there's anything stopping anyone from saying that. It's just the logo, usage of the logo. At least that had been my understanding for a bit.
That is correct.
That is correct.
Okay. That is good to know. That. Okay. Okay. 9 minutes to go. For the next call, probably the technical meeting, we could maybe have a draft resolution. I'd have to do it without Emily because, from what I understand, Monday is a day off in the UK. What did she say, banking day or something? And her first day back is Tuesday, but Tuesday is when I fly out. And we probably won't chat before the technical call, but I'll see if I can get some draft language together. And it won't be ready for ballot because we'll need people to take a look at it. Emily and I need to get in sync, and of course, Dabang as well. Jan. Jan, you're on mute. You have your hand raised.
Oh, I was on mute, sorry. Currently, the discussion is held on Google Groups, but we should do it on the official mailing list at some point. Maybe that is possible to gather last inputs for the ballot.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea. Let's see. I wonder if there's a way where I could print out the existing discussion as a PDF with everything expanded, and then post that in the mailing list. I'll see if I can do that.
John, you're talking, yeah, but you're talking about the mailing list a thread from the community forum where some microprofilers have written information beyond these notes.
Yeah. So yeah, my point is we could PDF that, stick it on a drive, and link.
Okay, that's cool. I was going to say because I don't think that attachments show up in the Eclipse mail archives.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think about all the meeting minutes.
That had to be verified, but I don't recall seeing any.
Yeah. All right. So I'll stick it on in the MicroProfile Google Drive and then reference that, so I can do that.
Or maybe it's possible to get the PDF content into a mail.
No.
Listen, just linking to it from a mail is
yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
And people
my recommendation
100K file.
Yeah, my recommendation will be, because we're all lazy, aside from adding the link, I'm not sure the attachment will work, is to copy paste. It will be a lot of hard work because you have to copy paste. There is Garden Jag, there is Tommy Tribe, there is a few others, like there is a lot of information in there. Oracle, Microsoft. who have sent some information beyond the minutes.
If
So
it's
I
a,
would recommend
just a
copy
quick, simple
paste.
suggestion, if we only have like a couple big long threads, they could be forwarded.
That's true. There's only 2.
Ah,
Even
Yeah,
better.
Yeah, if that were, oh, that's a good point, David.
I mean,
I'll look
even
at
if you
that.
respond and just add the other list into the CC, it'll just show up in the archive.
Yeah, that's a good point. But but Jan would have to reply in the context of the MicroProfile working group list, which we're
That
on.
would,
So
that would work. I mean, he could trim the thread down to the points that he'd like to respond to.
yeah, I can answer on the thread, but it will not be mirrored to the Google Groups. Yeah. But that's a good way to get the content into the working group mailing list.
okay. So yeah,
You could just,
I'll look at that.
yeah, you could just respond to them and say, one sentence,
Adding MicroProfile dash WG.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see if there's. I wish it was just the final email in the thread, but that's not how it works. They fork. So okay. Yeah, I could look at that. I thought there was one other thing. Tutorial. I don't know if I want to get into tutorial right now. Releases. During the MicroProfile AI call this morning, basically, they're kind of waiting for us to have a ballot before they actually go off and create and name a repo under LangChain4j. It shouldn't prevent any work, right? Because things can still be done under small RAI, but they're kind of this is kind of like the first pending thing that I've seen external to the actual move. So I thought I'd bring that up. I think I'll end the call there. It's near the top of the hour anyway. I've already let Emily know I won't make the next call, but I'll.
So, thank you for bringing that up, because honestly, I was a little bit confused why that thread was started outside of the working group vote anyway. What we need to do for MicroProfile AI is to have a proper vote on the working group vote. So yeah, I was also waiting for that.
Oh, for it to be the MicroProfile dash working group thread?
Right, because yeah, this is I do think, if this were, for example, the Jakarta working group, yeah, we from Microsoft perspective, we would have insisted a steering committee decision. I think similarly, I think we need because this is involving fairly significant amount of work. It involves brand usage. I do think it's the most appropriate thing is to have a quick vote in the actual working group vote, not whatever happened prior. But anyway, my 2 cents on that.
You're correct,
I
Reza.
think
There
this
is a plan review required.
Yeah.
But we
That
are
would
not on
happen.
the stage where we create a specification. That's implementation work that is happening there. So it's
Wait, sorry. Are
currently
we
the
referring
small
to
RAI
the
implementation.
AI?
Sorry?
Sorry, I
It's a
apologize.
little bit of a gray area. Yeah, it's not exactly a spec, but it's definitely something that. Anyway.
Sorry, you're referring to MicroProfile AI?
I'm
Yes.
referring to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure I had the context right. Yeah, it's not a formal spec. It started out as a sandbox project. Technically, it's a small RAI project. And the discussion has always kind of been community oriented, right? So to me, it just follows the MicroProfile way of doing things and it being kind of done in the community aspect because it isn't anything formal. It's been nothing more than nothing more. I don't mean to diminish it anyway. It's well, it's a sandbox, right? Where we're trying things out.
Yeah.
Now, are we trying to get a little bit more formal by moving it over to LangChain4j? Probably.
May I ask a question? When you say, so is there an intent for it to be a specification?
Yes, when it's stable.
But that's
Yeah,
too
whenever that
late,
happens.
right? I mean, the spec work should be done inside the MicroProfile community. So if there is a desire for it to be a specification, it should be moved before it's polished and finished. And everyone says, don't touch that. We've been working on that for months.
No, the problem in that AI field is the things are changing very rapidly. And we came to that point where we said, okay, it makes sense to base the work on LangChain4j, because that's a library which covers most of the changes already in a Java API, and add functionality on top of that from CDI and telemetry and fault tolerance, etc. But at the current stage, it's unclear in which direction that will go. And when there is some idea of a stable API, then it should become a specification. And then
It's okay. It's okay to explore that as a specification project with the charter that's what you're going to do. With
Yeah,
the
this
plan
is
that's what you're going to do, that you're going to create a specification project to explore if there's a standardization opportunity on top of that library for this specific domain, and then create yourself a repo. But I would be against creating a repo without a plan. I mean, the plan just simply tells everybody what you're thinking to do. Doesn't
yeah,
see,
but
the plan doesn't, hold on. The plan doesn't mean you have decided. That's really,
yeah. But at the moment, there is no MicroProfile repo at all. We are having an early stage implementation contributed to a small RAI, and that is moved to another external project to not link it to a specific implementation. But yeah, the next step, when that is stable, then creating a sandbox within MicroProfile or even Jakarta later on. But we
I
are not at that
apologize.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, we're at the top of the hour. I know David and Jan. I mean, I hate to say this, but my recommendation is to join the next the next MicroProfile AI call. Valid comments, or valid discussion. It just probably that's the context it should happen in. And Reza, if it's really quick, we're already two minutes over. Go ahead.
John, this is nothing formal. It is not required. The reason I believe a working group vote is appropriate here is because of the significance of this work. So this is the only reason. I'm not saying it's procedurally required. It's just would be, I think, the right thing to do. Anyway,
and also you said, John, MicroProfile AI. So what gives you the right to say that?
Touche. Hold on, let me get that knife out of my back. Fair point.
You can't just decide to call something MicroProfile, right?
Yeah, no,
That's a working group decision.
All right,
touche.
MicroProfilers, let's go.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, everyone.
Exactly.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, bye.